you're worthy of it all. Let all your people sing.
Well, good evening, everybody. Welcome to Wednesday Night Live. How is everyone doing? It is a joy for me to look around the room and see people created in the image of God. and just see your smiling faces uncovered, uninhibited. I mean, just an incredible thing. You guys just look amazing. Thank you to everybody that is tuned in online with us. Wish you could be here and see all these beautiful people. It is an incredible sight, and I don't know why anybody would want to cover their face. You guys just look incredible, and I just can't say that enough. So thank you for coming out tonight. I want to remind you, Wednesday Night Live here at Our Watch is a place we're trying to make sure you have incredible, correct information so that way you can make wise decisions. You can take back the public square. And I can tell you this, we as people with Judeo-Christian values, a biblical worldview, we have basically just let the whole public square thing go to the radical left, and it is high time we take it back. Amen? Amen. I want to just tell you we're going to have a blast tonight. It's just going to be a whole lot of fun. The guest that we have out tonight is she's a journalist and a broadcaster from the UK. Many of you may have seen her on a little show called The Apprentice. She's also on Tucker Carlson or Hannity. Please welcome up my friend Katie Hopkins.
Thank you. Thank you, that was kind.
I got to get a hug before you sit down. We're allowed to touch around here. That's perfectly acceptable.
Look at everybody.
Here. I know you've traveled a long way, and you've actually met some very strange people dressed strange ways on airplanes and stuff like that. So,
absolutely, yes.
yeah.
Breaking in from JFK to LA, there were some pretty unusually dressed individuals on that plane. I can tell you for nothing. Full kind of nuclear, biological, chemical warfare suits, full boots up to their knees, goggles on their eyes. This was my neighbor on the plane, and he was sweating so much that little tiny pools of sweat had gathered in each of the, like when you're swimming, you get water, but this was actually his sweat. And they kind of splooshed around.
Yeah, but they're safe, though.
But so much safer than I was. And just as an inappropriate detail, we may as well kick off inappropriate right at the start, hey? He didn't go to the bathroom for the whole 7 hours, so I don't even want to go into thinking about what went on there. So that was a standard American flight from JFK to LA, just a regular day in paradise. Yeah.
Well, it was quite the journey for you to get here. We certainly appreciate you making your way here to America. I feel blessed to have you on the show tonight. And this is not our first rodeo together. We've done some other stuff together, and I just count it a blessing to know you and to be able to do work with you. And tonight, what we're going to talk about is this battle between what you call dark and light, good and evil. And certainly, as we get into that, I just want to share the Word of God real quick. Ephesians chapter 6, it tells us in verse 12 that we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of darkness of this age, against the spiritual host of wickedness in the heavenly places. And so, she calls it a battle between dark and light, good and evil. And I can tell you, it is a spiritual battle that we are in. We are definitely dealing with the powers of darkness. And yet God has said, if you are here tonight, you are a believer in His Son, Jesus Christ. God says that you are the light of the world. And here's what He says in 2 Corinthians chapter 6. It says, do not be unequally yoked together with unbelievers, for what fellowship has righteousness with lawlessness, and what communion has light with darkness. And here's the fact, where the light is, the darkness cannot dwell. And what we're seeing right now in our state, what we're seeing in our nation, and what we're going to talk about tonight, we're seeing worldwide, we are seeing the darkness prevailing in many ways, and the reason that I would submit to you that that's happening is because we have not been the light that God has called us to be. The Bible actually says you don't take a light and stick it under a basket. And I would just fast forward that to our modern day language. You don't take a light and just stick it in your living room and just sit on the couch with it. You take it out and you let it shine into the community. You give light into this world. You know, the Bible says that we don't just talk about these wicked things. We're not even supposed to be talking about the wicked things. Rather, we are supposed to be exposing them, and that was what light does. It exposes the wickedness that is in the darkness. So let's just talk about where you're coming from. You don't talk the way we talk. So you took quite the journey. You want to tell us about this journey? Because you're not even supposed to be here.
I'm not
I don't know if
supposed to be
everybody
here.
knows that.
No, I'm very naughty being here. Yay, hooray for naughtiness. Hooray. Am I allowed to say that in a church? I love you guys, by the way. So when you do scripture, these ladies here know the words before you've said them.
Yes.
That means you're
That's
very
what
good
happens when a
students
pastor actually
indeed.
teaches the Word of God.
Yes. I'm giving you both gold stars. Yes, absolutely. Very good. Yes, so I've been rather naughty and I'm not allowed to be here. As much as I love Donald J. Trump, and will always love him, and in fact, he obviously should have married me, and it's inexplicable that he ended up with Melania with her absolutely perfect cheekbones, figure, and everything else. I just don't understand it at all. In fact, the last time I saw Donald Trump Jr., I asked him to marry me as a sort of stand-in for his father. And also because he's with Kimberly Guilfoyle, and after all, who's going to be married to Kimberly Guilfoyle? But anyway, the point I think we were trying to get to, weren't we? A point. That's what you'd like me to do. Could be a long night, ladies and gentlemen. You might want to change into your pajamas and put your slippers on. Curl up, because this could go on for a while. Yeah, so I'm not supposed to be here. And Donald Trump, love him. He banned British people, which is very terrible because our lovely security here, Peter, is also British. So therefore, that's both
All
of
right,
us.
Peter.
I know. Obviously, I say Peter, and you all say Peter. Did you get christened with a D in your name? So he banned me from being here. And I'm not brilliant at being told no, as my father will attest to. And I have a middle child who's very like me. And my father says that she's punishment for me being me. Yeah. So I'm not great at being told no. I don't think we now live in an age where we can any longer wait and ask for permission to do things. I think we have to take permission. Politely, yes, and with a smile, always. And never attacking someone who's not in power and is only doing what they've been told to do, but always taking permission politely and with a smile. And the more that you get into trouble, the more British accent you should put on. That's also my learning. If I'm trying to get a bigger coffee than I'm actually owed, I will go very British indeed. Can I have a cappuccino? Thanks awfully. And anyway, so I went the long way. So instead of going A to B, are you hoping this might end sometime?
No, I'm good. I just love listening to you talk.
Pastor Tim's aged like 8 years already. He's like, oh God, she goes.
I like hearing what you have to say because you don't like being told no.
Do you prefer it when I have a mask on? It actually shuts me up.
Oh my goodness. I just like being around people who don't like being told no. We're told no, you can't have church, and yet we're still doing it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And earlier on, I got that from Pastor Tim. I got him to rant directly into my camera at all the other pastors in America. And tomorrow, that goes out on the internet. And Pastor Tim is calling them all out, which I just love. So back to story, and I'm going to make it much shorter. So instead of going A to B, Britain to America, which you'd think was a fairly rational and normal thing to do, come and visit, our sisters and brothers, I went to where I was allowed to go still, which was Barbados. And then from Barbados, Americans were allegedly still allowed to come back to America. And I thought, I'll go to Barbados, pretend to be someone from Barbados, which I think you can agree I can do a pretty convincing impression of a Bajan individual, pretty much local. And then I'm going to fly from Barbados to LA. Brilliant, sorted. So whilst in Barbados, they cancelled down all American airline flights to LA, because, of course, we all have to be ridiculous, because Newsom. And then, meanwhile, I have to have testing at the airport for COVID. I have to have one of those swabs where they swab your brain. And I'm not going to say, and this is in the airport terminal. So we're testing for COVID in an airport terminal, and they've all been taught that all Americans and British people are bad. Anyway, So the guy looks at me and he gives me the rules. Number 1, you don't shout out. Number 2, you do not grab me. And 3, you sit on your hands. And I'm like, what? And I see why now, because when they shove this thing up your nose, the first thing you want to do, sorry to gesture in your direction, but it's grab those things and twist them hard. I will say I managed to scare him a little, though, because of the size of my nose, which you'll see in profile. Hold on. It's quite substantial, I think we'll agree. My father said you could put me in this garden and use me as a sundial. Anyway, so I looked at him with his swab and I was like, you've got a job on your hands. You might need a longer swab, my son. Anyway, so I had my swab done. And then what you have to do is go into isolation. If you're British for 2 days, if you're American for 7. And then you have to stay in quarantine for 14 days, calling in with your temperature twice a day. And eventually you are told that you can leave the island. So I did that for 15 days. I didn't actually take my temperature. I just made up one that was in the normal range and called in with that because, hey, detail. And then eventually I got on a plane to JFK, not knowing actually whether they would let me in, not knowing whether I'd be rejected or sent back. It wouldn't be the first country that I've been banned from, if I'm honest with you. I'm already banned from South Africa for my work with white farmers there. So I got on that plane not knowing what would happen at the other end. And I was looking at the immigration officers. I don't know if anyone else does this. Probably not, because you're all very normal and I'm the weird one. But I was like, right, which one looks like the lesbian? Okay, I'm not going there. Which one looks like they vote Democrat? Okay, I'm definitely not going there. Which one looks like they don't eat meat? I'm not going there. And so I tried to pick the immigration officer at JFK that looked like they might actually kill someone or use a weapon or vote Trump. And so I got this tough-ass looking woman, gave her a little bit of a I love Trump story, and she said, welcome home and welcome back to the USA. And I tell you, I got to the luggage carousel, I won't do it here because I don't know if camera will kill me. Can I run up and down?
Sure.
Okay.
I think.
I know, it's a full performance art, this. So I'm at the luggage carousel and I'm like, yes, 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 yes. And then I realized I just looked like I had smuggled heroin. So I was like, and then tried to act normal and got in. So that's my entry, and that's my determination to come here, and that's my determination to help fight for great people who are standing against the system, who are not seeking permission, and who are determined to get 4 more years.
Well, we certainly appreciate you making that trip. Normally, 14 days in Barbados is something you desire to do.
No, I know. Listen, there's worse places.
Yes.
My story was almost longer than the quarantine.
Well, you're saying that there is some hope and some optimism, and you've seen some of that. You've also seen some of the damage that certain politicians have done. I saw that you stopped by Skid Row, and for you, you've been there before.
Yes, I've slept on Skid Row for a couple of days.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that's really important if people want to call themselves journalists is no longer should it be acceptable that you can sit in a studio and be part of a panel and regurgitate the same opinions that we've heard 55 times before. And I level that criticism at both sides. This isn't a problem that's peculiar to CNN. This is a problem that's peculiar to Fox and others as well. I think what we need actually was those old times of journalism when people used to go out and show you stuff. And once they'd showed you stuff, they allowed you to decide how you'd like to process the showing of stuff. And it's something I spend a lot of my time doing now.
Yeah.
I'm used to being booed in the UK, so applause is very kind, thank you. But so I travelled across the Med with migrants. I have stayed in the migrant camps at Calais. I slept on Skid Row, and then the first thing I did when I landed in LA was go straight to Skid Row and spend time there, because I think it's a good metric for where we're at. I think it also allows you to get a sense of a place. And Skid Row is darker now than I've ever known it historically. And because the whole of the downtown area is now deserted and abandoned. I was the only one at, is it Pershing Square?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Sorry. So I was the only person in that square, the only person. And all the stores are boarded, all the streets are empty, apart from homeless individuals or those struggling. And therefore I see Skid Row very rapidly pushing outwards to the rest of downtown because it has nothing to push back against. And so, yes, my main mission is to go to places, show people the truths of the place that I see, and allow people to make their own decisions. And I think it's actually one of the most effective tools that we have against Democrats in this battle, or in our battle for simply telling the truth.
Right.
And that's what I intend to do when I'm here.
Yeah. Well, telling the truth isn't always as glamorous as people think it is, because you hear what happens when you tell the truth. You're the problem. I talked about this on church this past Sunday, how as we endeavor to be what God has called us to be, no matter how good you are at that, I mean, people will see you living out your Christianity, and they're still going to say you're the problem. They're still going to call you the racist, the misogynist, the bigot, the xenophobe. I mean, all these key words that the radical left likes to use, and that's who you're going to be. And I love where you come from. I mean, you come from this position of, I am a straight, white, Christian woman. And I love that.
It's longer than that.
It's long. Go ahead. Tell us who you are.
I'm a straight, white, Christian, conservative, married, surprising, mother of 3 children under the age of 16. And I am proud of all those things. And those are the things that make me who I am. And there was a time where I had very short hair because I had some surgery and whatever. And so that's why I used to have to explain it, because obviously in America, very often, if you have short hair, you're also a lesbian. And that's a great thing to be. Like, if you want to be that, that's perfect. I'm no judging. I just had to make that point clear, because after the American football team, it got a bit confusing.
Gotcha. All right. So, you're straight, white, all those things you said, and it's not politically correct to say those things.
No, those are all the wrong answers in my country. They're just wrong answers. And I think, to Pastor Tim's point, one of the things that you learn early on is to accept all the labels. So you're sexist, okay, you're racist, okay, you're fascist, misogynist, homophobic, Islamophobic. You just put them all on you like a badge. And then you look at the person and you say, okay, I've got all your labels. Now can you listen to what I'm going to say? And you try again and you take them forward again. So you don't try and push back against their labels. I don't think it's helpful. Some people say, oh, well, my husband is black. But, and? Like, it doesn't... What's that? Is that some sort of excuse? Get out of jail free pass? I think what we have to do is own the label, remember where our spine is, and come forward again and say, could I just see what your views are on this? I'd love to hear your views on this, and try again. And I think that's part of this. We always know that our fight will be uphill. I think it's something we accept. I don't think Pastor Tim or I have any regrets ever about putting ourselves out there. And actually, we have to take accountability for that, because we made that decision. I made the choice to put myself out there. So not everybody's going to like me. I have to own that as well. Maybe some people will hate me. I have to own that. And some people might want to come and physically harm me. I need to own that as well. Those were all part of my decision to put myself out there and tell the truth as I see it. But I think what we can do always is know that because we fight uphill, that's why we are strong. And it makes us stronger than the rest. And certainly my battle in the UK is a lot of that. It's fighting uphill, taking the incoming fire, but acknowledging I will not be beaten, I will not be stopped. Amen. And I say to those who silence me, you know, that you are Frankenstein, I am your monster. You made me, and I'm not going away. I like to think of myself as whack-a-mole. You know whack-a-mole? So every time they whack-a-mole me, I pop up somewhere else. I'm that bloody annoying. And so now to have just popped up in California, I had a comment today saying, A, why is she breaking the law and she's in America? Let's report her to the feds. And B, I'm going to come and XYZ to her, you know, assault. And it's like that's what annoys them the most, is when you refuse to go down. Or every time they take you down, you get straight back up. And that's what I think we're about, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, on Sunday, for those of you who don't attend church here, or for the people that are tuned in online, I talked about this on Sunday, how Jesus said, they hated me, so they're going to hate you. You know, and there's this perception in modern Christianity that thinks, oh, well, we can just all be liked by everybody. And the fact is, if you really, truly study what Jesus said, he said, look, people are going to hate you. So just get over it. Don't have this strong desire to be liked. Just move on with your life, knowing people are going to hate you, and just get over it. And that's how we have to be. We can't sit around hoping that everyone is going to like us, especially when we teach and speak the truth.
I think that's right. Yeah. I also think, being liked is overestimated. I went to a convent school, probably shows. My father would say it was start of all my problems. I was taught by nuns. And Sister Bede always said, in an essay I wrote when I was little, I used the word nice. You had to use big, clever words. Couldn't use the word nice. And Sister Bede said, if there's one thing you don't want to be or write, ever, it's nice. And I took her literally at her word. I think Sister Bede probably looked back over the years and thought, I maybe shouldn't have taught her that. But I think being liked is overrated. I think we bring our children up to imagine the only thing they want is likes, likes online, like for a picture. And that's terribly damaging to young people. I've even had people turn up to talks maybe like this, and I love it when people who can't stand me come to something like this. That's joyous to me, because they'll come up afterwards and say, I came here because I hated you, and now I hate you because I don't hate you anymore.
How many of you hate Katie tonight? I'm just curious. How many of you came because you hate her?
Oh, I wish. No, but I
no
wish.
Hands. No hands. Everybody loves you.
Because I wish we could sometimes bring in I wish we could go speak at the DNC.
I would love that.
No, but truly, not only would A, we'd be the most interesting thing they'd ever heard of, but B, we would have a chance to show who we are.
Right.
And who we are is just like them, but just a lot better.
So we are seeing America kind of catch up, in a sense, to the UK. I was talking, when we first met, I was in the fight, and still am in the fight, against the sex ed that's going on, this indoctrination in our school system. And I'll never forget, you looked at me and you said, you know what, Pastor Tim? You were catching up to us. We've already been there. We've already been doing this. And so in many ways, we in America are just starting to catch up to the rest of the world. And so tell us about that, because I'll never forget what you said. You spoke at the Unite IE Conservative Conference, and I love what you said, because you kind of left everybody with this. You said, let them have their issues, their tissues, and tears. We are armed with facts, firearms, and the Constitution. I love that.
I love that. I said that.
You said that.
And you remembered that.
And I remember it because it was so
really
impactful.
good line.
And you basically told everybody, you better get out and vote for Donald Trump or you'll have me to deal with. I love that. You just laid it down. But it's so radically important that we get out and vote, and that we vote properly. Tell us how you see kind of where you live and how we're just kind of creeping up on you guys.
Yeah, so I should start out by saying, and importantly, I love my country. I love my country so much, I would fight for my country. I went through university, I studied economics, and then I was sponsored by the Intelligence Corps, and then I went to Sandhurst, which is British Army officer training, the Royal Military Academy, Sandhurst, and I became an Intelligence Corps officer, and I signed up to be in the Intelligence Corps for 35 years. Now, I didn't serve all of those 35 years. I have been on TV and radio shows where they've gone, oh, so you served 35 years. And I'm like, how old does my face look to you? Because it's alarming my brain that you think I did that time. I had to leave before the end of my term because I had to be medically discharged because I had epilepsy as well. But my point is, I love my country such that I will fight for it. And I think I still do that right now, just in a different way. But the truth of my country that I must tell also is dark. By 2030, so with 10 years' time, births to Muslims outnumber births to any and all others. That isn't problematic in itself. It's just that the new reading of diversity means no white people. And that, to me, is not the definition of diversity that any of us would perhaps hope for. So Mohammed is the number one name. Muhammad is the number 2 boy's name in the UK. And by 2040, so just 20 years' time, I'm a minority in my own country. I'm already a minority in London. I'm a minority in Bradford, Birmingham, Luton, Leicester. The list of towns, Bradford, goes on and on. And that's really the darkness. And it's not just the darkness in itself, but what you're starting to see here, Minnesota, Minneapolis, is the creep of an alliance between the left and the Muslim majority. And that is why, for us, I know it's something we're going to touch on another day, but why our Jewish diaspora, our Jewish community, only has so much time left. The clock is ticking for them. When I spend time in Israel, the warning to my Jewish friends in London is to treat every day like September 1st, 1939. And I can tell you on the 11th of December, when we had our last election, general election, like your election in November, my Jewish friends in London had their bags packed by the front door once more. Because if Jeremy Corbyn got in, our descent into extremism, Islamist-backed extremism, was going to be so rapid, they knew they had to get their families out. And we were saved on that day by people coming out. And so interestingly, where we go down a dark path, you follow. But when we rise, you rise. We rose for Brexit. You know, people came out, I write 17.3 million people, which is like one town in Texas. Is that right? Right? So all of us Brits came out and voted Brexit. And that was a moment, I tell you, 12th of June, was a moment you couldn't believe that could still happen in my country. That silent majority sang out. And it was such a glorious day. That happened again on the 12th of December. We were told we were going to get Labour, Jeremy Corbyn. That was the moment the country would be gone forever. And even people who lived in what was called, if you just roll with this, in England, the left is red, Labour red. This was called the Red Wall. Part of England that was forever Labour, red, part always Democrat. Their fathers' fathers were Democrat. They worked in the mines, in the woolen mills. This was working class, industrial class left. They came out and they voted Boris Johnson because it was the right thing to do for the country. Yes. And that, to me, is what we're just made my goosebumps go. That's what we're starting to see here, is the Lyft driver who gave me a lift home the other day saying, I'm with Trump. I'm with Trump. He's the Lyft driver. I was like, this is a Democrat car. I'm going to keep my mouth shut. And so then the Trump mask came out, my Trump banner came out, I had Jews for Trump. And that back seat of that car was a whole new party in itself. I can tell you, I was like, woo, yeah. So he got 5 stars and a tip. And then today I was in the post office, what's it called, the US?
Oh, UPS?
UPS, sorry, I want to say USP, and I was like, that is not right, that's ultra-sensory perception. UPS, I apologize. And the gentleman there had a mohawk. Remember those hairstyles that were like this? You know what I'm talking about. Did you have one? No. It was bright blue. Not now.
Hey, that's beautiful.
I didn't think you had a blue mohawk under that hat, sir. Bless your soul. But it would have been great if you had. So anyway, UPS, blue mohawk. So I'm thinking, Democrat, be nice, be pleasant, be nice, we can bring him over. I just have all this whole thing. My head is a whole world of drama. So I get up there, and a lady was rude at the counter next to us. A lady was rude to the member of staff, unnecessarily, an older lady. And so I felt the need to remind her that the member of staff was politely trying to serve her, and would she mind being polite in return? At which point, of course, my mask's off because I'm needing to lecture a member of the American public. I turned back to the gentleman with the blue hair and I said, oh, I'm sorry. And he went, well, I don't mind. And I went, well, I'm not a believer in this load of bollocks anyway. Sorry, Pastor Tim. And he went,
I don't even know what that means.
Oh, so. Excellent. God bless you. God bless you. And he went, I'm not a believer either. In fact, Trump all the way. In the UPS! Blue hair! Right! So they are there. They're the blue-haired guy in the UPS who's just over the road. Actually, if you want to go and say hi, he's just over the freeway. I walked there. Nobody here walks, right? Everybody thinks I'm either drunk or homeless. Very upsetting. Blue-haired guy, Trump supporter. So what I'm saying is, what I believe is going to happen is the silenced are going to rise up. Right. And they are going to vote not with politics, not with colour of your hat. They're going to vote for what's right for their family. And that's
Right.
why there's so much joy.
Right.
So much joy.
Right.
But not for the rude lady
Not for
at
the rude lady.
UPS. She didn't have such a great day.
So there's a thing called assimilation. When people come into your country, you know, especially when you look at America, we have the Constitution. And certainly, Islam is not compatible with our Constitution. It doesn't work. I mean, it really doesn't when you look at that. So tell us about, because you were talking about darkness versus the light. Tell us about what you have seen in your country with Islam coming in and their failure to assimilate. Because it's done a lot of damage.
It really has, and I'll just do two brief comparisons. One is our Muslim, the Muslim community who've come to join us, and then our Indian community who've been with us for a long time, if I may. Our Muslim community have no interest nor care for Western culture. In fact, they loathe it. Teachings in mosques that are going on every day teach that our young white girls, they use a lollipop to teach this lesson. And the lollipop, you know those lollipops, those round ones that you lick when you're a kid, or if you're me, you still buy from Target. Yeah. With the pink, that has like a plastic wrapper on, they teach that British girls are lollipops without the plastic wrapper on. We're dirty, and therefore any kind of fly that wants to can land on that lollipop and use it how it wants. The British girls are dirty, and therefore Muslim men can use them how they want. And that's why our young white girls are the target of mass grooming gangs, where our white girls are plucked off, and this can happen to perfectly middle-class, respectable girls. They have big cars, they send out their best-looking, nicest-smelling gentleman, he hooks them in, and then those young girls, 14, 12, are passed round in groups. They're smart, sophisticated, coordinated, networked groups of men abusing and assaulting young white girls. Now, of course, that isn't representative of all our Muslim population, but we have two police forces in the UK. We have a Muslim police force called the Muslim Police Force, and we have police for white Christians, British people, whatever term, it matters not. We have a Muslim, Sadiq Khan has set up Muslim Housing Association. We have Muslim courts, so we have Sharia courts in operation situated next to the mosque. We have incidents where, a recent one, just to quote one last thing perhaps, a lady was found in the street, a Muslim young lady, all on fire. She was all ablaze. And a man ran out from his garage, where he worked, to try and put her out. And he doused her out and put her out. And I went there soon after, and the grass where she lay was all blackened. And he put her out, and the Scottish police were there to deal with it. Now, just after that, the local mosque that she attended put out that it was a sister that was involved, so a member of the Muslim community, that a good Muslim does not gossip about what goes on in the community, and that there's no further cause for concern. The Scottish police came out and said there were no suspicious circumstances. So what that's basically telling you is that the community is saying it was one of our daughters and she was being dealt with, and our police said there was no suspicious circumstances. So an honour killing where young girls are set ablaze if they don't marry the person they're supposed to marry, or perhaps they date someone or whatever, or wear the wrong clothes. So I'm just telling you that that's what's going on in cities. I've been to cities where they say to me, "Where are you from?" Because I'm the only white person there. I went to visit Tommy Robinson when he was locked in Belmarsh. The same again, and a gentleman said to me, "Oh, it's a bit diverse around here for you, isn't it, Hopkins?" And I was like, "Well, it is now that I'm in town, son." So our towns and cities are overrun, truly, and we are the outsiders. And with a rate of birth that is outnumbering us, if you looked at any of the primary school intakes, of course, we're about 70, 80% intake Muslim and white minority. And English is not the first language in increasingly majority schools. So English is rapidly not the first language in England. And if I may very briefly touch on our Indian diaspora, they joined us in the 70s, came over from the West Indies to help in the mills, help work, and they are the best of us. Our Indian community, our Hindu community are the best of British. They came, they wanted to be like us, but retain things that were great about their culture. They worked harder than us. Their kids are smarter than us. They do their schoolwork on time. They turn up looking immaculate at school. And I cannot tell you, I work with the embassy to help them in any way I can. Last time the Muslim mob came for them, I went in there and got in their faces and backed them off a little. But they're the same Indian community that you will have seen. Howdy Modi coming over with the Trump supporters. Millions of Indians are with you, and they're the best of us. So assimilation can absolutely work. Our Muslim individuals have come to take over. And my question, of course, that remains unanswered, and if anyone on YouTube has got an answer, I'd really like to have it, is if Islam is so fantastic, why do Muslims always come to Christian countries to seek refuge or a home? Why never Islamic countries giving host to their own? Yeah.
Right. And when you speak out against it, it's not received well. You want to tell everybody about your experience? I mean, people want wedding gifts. You know, how many of you, like when you get married, you register, like you go and register to get your gifts? You guys know that? Like, how about getting somebody's head?
So, it's a standard wedding list gift,
you know,
is it
course.
not?
Yeah.
A Hopkins head.
A Hopkins head?
So when they come for you, they really come. I know we talk about cancel culture, and it worries me a little because I think we've given a polite title to something that can actually be... We made it sound a bit like a birthday invite. Oh, would you like a cancel culture? Oh, yes, thank you, I'll take it too. Actually, when they come for you, it can be incredibly not just damaging, but you know, my personal belief is they'll come for you until you're swinging from a tree. And they'll keep coming until they achieve that. And plenty of others, like me or in different guises, have ended up doing just that, ending their own life in order to end the mob. So they came for first my jobs. I was a columnist for Mail Online, Daily Mail, Piers Morgan, and a radio host at LBC. I wouldn't mind being fired if I was rubbish, but those were the best read or best listened to radio shows. Then they came for my home. So there was litigation against me. A new law was created to say that if I offended you on Twitter, I could have caused you serious harm, and you can now take me to court because you perceived that I seriously harmed you by saying that I didn't like your T-shirt was blue. And so those court cases lined up like buses, and so I had to sell the family a home in order to clear myself of owning anything financial to stop the court cases against me. So they took the home. Then they came for my kids. My kids are 16, 15, and 11 right now. And they ring social services and say that I'm a bad mum or I'm abusing my children. And if I was trying to adopt in the UK, I can't adopt because I'm too conservative. So the threat against my children is more real than perhaps it would seem. And every time social services have to come to my home and check on my children, which I respect, of course, politely, but of course they could be doing something else when you think of the young girls in towns and cities being groomed by the gang. So then they came for my head. A couple of jihadis set out to chop off my head. One of them was called I think. I'm not sure. I didn't quite catch his name. And his fiancée, she's a real delight, and she's called I think. Again, I could have... My Arabic is... So my home was rigged up, and a secret service came to my home and set some alarms in. But anyway, those two jihadis, we won't go over their names again because I won't be able to do it the second time. They're now in prison, actually, so they were taken down, yes. 1-0 to me. I still have my head. And then finally, just to top it all off, the British government weren't quite done with me yet, and so they commissioned a play called The Assassination of Katie Hopkins, and billboards for that play went up around the country. And of course, it was all a jolly jape, and you've seen it before with Trump and other things that were done with, comedians. It's all very funny. But that was a play that went up. So, yeah, when they come for you, they really come. And they take. Last time Trump retweeted me, they took my Twitter. Then they took my bank account. So they really come.
Right.
But the great thing about whacking a mole is that the mole springs back up. And here we are. And I thank you for being here. And I thank Pastor Tim and his team for having me here.
Yeah, well, like I said, we're grateful to have you here. So grateful you made the trip. We still have a bunch. You still got more time?
Oh, as in now or in,
Right
in
now.
America?
No, right now with us.
I've
We have
always
more we want
got
to get.
time.
We want to get through.
Yes,
I want
of
to talk to you
course.
about your experience with BLM.
Yes.
And just what we've got. I mean, I've spoken about BLM, and to me, when I look at everything they stand for, it's everything that I don't stand for. They stand for against everything I stand for, and it's funny because they say Black Lives Matter, but their organization doesn't seem to really give a hoot about Black lives.
No.
You know, and like I've said a lot, is if they did, they would be in an uproar over Planned Parenthood being planted in every black community in this nation, you know. So what's your experience been with them, and how do you see that as a threat to this nation?
I think a couple of things. One, in order to understand things, I spend time at things. So I went to the biggest Black Lives Matter protest in the UK after the killing of George Floyd, and I dressed as a Black Lives Matter protester, and not in an inappropriate way. I just dressed as a vegan that no one likes. And I wore my Meghan Markle wig and a crazy hat, and I pretended to be a white person on the side, an ally, as they like to call themselves. I had a sign that said, "I do not understand, but I stand." And I looked really sorry for my whiteness. And then when they went on a knee, I went on a knee. And I was like, right. And then, so being amongst them is a really good way to understand them. A couple of things about Black Lives Matter. Number one, when they turn up and they've done their bit, which is a kneel and a bit of this and a bit of say his name, George Floyd, say his name, George Floyd. After that, they've not a clue what they're doing. They have not one clue. I watched them all and they all looked around and went, right, what now? What now? Anyone? No idea. Okay, let's go and break some stuff. They don't know where they're going. They're not a movement because they don't know what to do. After they've done the knee bit and the shout bit, they don't know what to do. Second up, Black Lives Matter, very clever. If you want everybody to join your movement and agree with you, call it something that you can only agree with. Black Lives Matter. Okay, great, we all agree with that. So my next campaign is going to be water is wet. Water is wet! Say his name, Arrowhead. You know, this is where we're going with this. So it's this idea of rallying people because they have nothing to push against. They have nothing to fight for. And all they know to do is break stuff and go against, right? Our grandparents fought in the war. They fought for freedom. Women fought for the right to vote. They've lost all that fighting for, and all they know is to pull down and destroy. And one anecdote from my Black Lives Matter protests is that when I got myself to a safer space, I got my wig off, 'cause it was pretty hot in a wig. I then started tweeting that I'd been amongst the protests, so there's my face with all of them in the black background. And of course, they're like, hunt her down. At this point, I'm already going, but some of the posters they had up were like, Katie Hopkins is the problem. And I wanted to like tap on their shoulder and go, ooh, here I am. So yeah, when you get amongst them, they're not that impressive at all. The numbers are impressive when they're like, oh, look at all those people. But when you get there and you recognize they don't even know where they're going after they've stood up from kneeling, that's why that movement can't go anywhere. But yeah.
Right. So what about their allies? And what about these corporations that are basically taking our money and funneling it to them? And, you know, I mean, there's a sense of public shame right now if you don't buy into that movement. And it's weird because we even have our president called it a terrorist organization. So, and I agree. I mean, they're causing terror on our land. But what about all this public shaming?
Isn't it so interesting? So I'm from here. At some point, I'm going to head to Minnesota, Minneapolis, because I think Ilhan Omar I could do with a chat with Ilhan. I don't see it going so well for her. And in Minnesota, Minneapolis, they'll put on their lawns, you know, those lawn signs. They put Black Lives Matter signs on their lawns, not because they support the movement, because they want to try and protect their house from the mob when the mob goes by. I don't know how many of you saw the clip of, I think it was Washington, D.C., where the mob were attacking the diners, telling them they had to raise their fist. And I don't know if you saw, as the camera panned, there was the couple who tried to stand their ground, even though they were being intimidated. It was not nice. The gentleman with the moustache who raised his fist, a white gentleman with a moustache raised his fist. He didn't do that because he was with Black Lives Matter or supported them or was an authentic believer. He did it because he wanted to protect his dining space, his meal, his safety. Oh, look, pick on her, and look, here I am with, oh, look, I don't stand, but I don't understand, but I stand. No, that time is gone. That time has passed. It is time to pick a side, and now you have to pick a side. And you don't get to put that lawn sign up, no. Right. And you don't get to raise your hand, no. And you better not be doing that if I'm anywhere near you, because that will be the last hand you ever raise. And if that lawn sign is sitting in your lawn right now in Minnesota, know this, it's not going to be there when I get into your town. Time to pick a side. There is no in-between anymore. There's no playing friends. There's no playing nice. There's only our side and the light, or you sit with the darkness. And if you sit with the darkness, you own that decision and you own that choice.
Right.
But for us, we will encourage politely, or by physical force if I'm required. No, we will encourage the others politely to come with us into the light.
Right. And we walk in the light because he's in the light. And, we look at what's going on. It never has it been clearer in my lifetime that this is a spiritual battle. For me, it's so crystal clear that there is the darkness, there is the light. And it's weird because God actually told us about this. He told us, I listen to my pastor, who happens to be here, Pastor Tom Hughes, is right here. And he talks about this. God says that nation will rise against nation. And that word for nation is ethnos, where we have this idea of ethnicity, right? There are people groups rising against people groups. And these are one of the signs that we were told to look for, that we would see a rise in this, a rise in people group rising against people group. And certainly that's what's going on. And it's funny because you get so many people buying into this, and yet they really, like you said, I don't understand. They have no clue what it is they're standing for. And yet we see this has crept into so many places. My bank supports Black Lives Matter. Stores that I've gone to, they have it on the receipt that a portion of it goes to Black Lives Matter. I mean, this is getting ridiculous. And really, when you look at all these things that go on, one thing's always true is follow the money. And when you look at where this money is going, it's going straight into the pocket of the Democrats. It's going straight into funding their ability to continue pushing darkness upon us. And you couldn't be any more correct when you say, now is the time to pick a side.
Yeah.
And if we want to see in America for our children's children, we want to see it, a place for them to grow up that's safe and secure, we have to stand against this unrighteousness now. And a major way we could do that is by voting. And you look at the statistics on voting records amongst Christians in California, and it sucks. Californian Christians don't go to the polls. Only 50% of Christians, evangelical Christians in California, only 50% are actually registered to vote. And of those that are registered, only 50% of them vote, which means only 25% of Christians vote. And out of the 25% that vote, most of them don't know how to vote. They don't know what to vote for. They have no clue. I've had Christians tell me that they're going to vote for Biden. These are people that fly the banner. Now, I say Christians. These are people that fly the banner of Christianity. These are not Christians. And I'll tell you why. Because a Christian does not vote for somebody who is good with killing babies in the womb. Plain and simple. A Christian does not vote for somebody who's good with churches being closed down. That's not what Christians vote for. And so it's never been any clearer. It's very, very clear what the choices are coming up. And I know this, that coming this election season, we will be ballot harvesting or ballot collecting or whatever politically correct form you want to call that. But we are going to be collecting ballots here at the church. We're going to be taking them, delivering them to the county registrar of voters because they're already trying to rig the election through voting by mail. And here's the fact. When you vote by mail, you're not even assured that your vote's even going to count. So we're going to collect ballots here. We're going to deliver them. Not only that, but I'm going to tell people how to vote. I am, There's so many people, they don't know what to vote for. They don't know which, on the judges, what do we vote for judges? And and we have to know how to vote. We have to know. And here's another part of the problem, Katie, is we've got pastors in pulpits that have not a clue. They don't know who to vote for. They don't know who their city council members are. They don't know who their school board members are. They don't know who their elected representatives are at all. And yet they're the ones that are supposed to be leading the the culture. We're supposed, as pastors, we're supposed to be leading people in things spiritual. And what could be more spiritual than this battle we're in? This is a spiritual battle.
And I just, isn't Pastor Tim a marvel? I mean, really, isn't he? I just think it's so disappointing when you see these pastors that don't open their doors. And I was just up in Pastor Tim's office, just preparing, and I was like, what is that? What is it? What is that? You know, when you feel something or something's bothering you or something and you can't... And then I realized what it was. And it was the noise of you guys talking and laughing and the children playing and the noise of tables or chairs or bottles or people having fun and just the general, the hubbub. What do you call it? Hubbub.
Hubbub. Yeah.
That's what we call it in the UK. We don't. I just made that up. But the general hubbub of life. That's what you brought tonight. And I didn't even know that I missed it because I didn't know it had been taken from me, because some freedoms you don't even notice they're gone until they're so far gone you never see them again. I went, that's what it is. You have brought life back. And that's what Pastor Tim has done. That's what these guys at the back have done. That's what these guys do. What you all do by being here, you bring life back.
Yeah.
And that's what we're about. We're about asking people to follow the light in a brilliant way, in a positive way, in a chattering hubbub of noise and children laughing way. And the great thing about the events that I've been doing, we just had one up in Alta Loma. They call it Rancho, I think. I'm not very good with the names. 250 people showed up in someone's yard where we're only allowed, 20? And you saw as they walked in the door into the garden, you saw their smiles.
Right.
They haven't been seeing smiles. And you saw their little shoulders go down. And they had the best time because we remembered what we'd forgotten we'd lost. And that's why Pastor Tim, to me, and all of you are so important. And I believe that all of you, by being here and doing what you do, are leading the way for others. Because if one more person comes, let's say on Sunday, you've led the way for that person to come. And that's how we win this thing.
Right.
That's how we win, by bringing people to the light.
Right. Yeah, I can't tell you how many people have walked through the doors of this church building and literally just start pouring tears.
Yes.
There's an overwhelming sense of the Holy Spirit, of us being alive together and aware. And it's hard, it's difficult when we go through this because you get to the grocery stores and everybody, they're like this and they're all walking around, they're freaking out. They don't know who they can be around and stuff. And it's an awkward feeling. And it shouldn't be that way, but it is what it is, unless you're me walking through the grocery store. I walk up to people I don't know. I'm like, hey, how's it going? How are you? Good to see you. Hey,
They're like that.
But the thing is, though, when you come into church, it should never be that way.
No.
The church should be a sense of stability, and it should be a place where you walk in. I mean, the Bible says, greet one another with a holy kiss. And not necessarily that we would kiss one another, but there's a physical touch that is needed by humanity. And when we're told to separate ourselves out and not touch anybody, it's not, I mean, it's satanic. It really is. It's the darkness. And it's not how God wants us to live. And it's inhumane. I mean, you think about the worst punishment you can give somebody is solitary confinement. It's the worst thing you can do to a person. It's not how God designed it. It's not good for a man to be alone. We're supposed to be around people. And I don't know, I could go on all night about this. It really is quite frustrating for me. But there is light at the end of the tunnel. First of all, if you are a believer in Jesus Christ, you're working from victory anyways. Jesus Christ has already won. So we're already on the winning team, plain and simple. That to me is super encouraging because you can walk around and not feel defeated. And it's easy nowadays to feel defeated, but when you think about the fact that we've already won, if you've given your life to Christ, you've already won. And you're spiritually alive. You can see other people walking around spiritually dead, and you just feel bad for them because it's a creepy thing seeing people walk around spiritually dead. And we know the joy that comes from being alive spiritually. It's like, oh gosh, I just wish other people could have this. And so now is the time we need to be sharing that with people. But there is hope. There is light at the end of the tunnel. And I want to give you an opportunity, two things. Number one, I want to give you an opportunity to share just a source of encouragement, whatever encouragement you want to leave everybody with. But before that, I want to let everybody know, remind you all that on Sunday, September 13th, Katie's going to be here with us all 4 services. So, you know, you did a...
So warn your friends.
Yes. Boy, after that Sunday, I can't believe Pastor Tim had her at church. I'm telling you, it's going to be a whole lot of fun. I'm going to be teaching the Word of God that Sunday. I am going to be here with her. I'm going to teach the Word of God, but then I'm going to bring her up to talk about a documentary that she just recently, it's just recent, you did, about the rise of anti-Semitism. And you have a heart for the Jewish people. And God says in Genesis chapter 12, verse 3, that I will bless those that bless you, the Jewish people, and I will curse those that curse you. And the blessing that you have been to the Jewish community is just it's a blessing to me to watch. And it's so important for us as Christians to know that in California, and this is why it's important to know who we're voting for. In California, there's a bill that's going, it's called the Ethnic Training Bill here in California. It's going to require your high school students to go through ethnic training before they graduate high school. This ethnic training, on the surface, they make it sound so wonderful, but I'll tell you, it is anti-white, anti-Semitic, anti-male, anti-Christian, anti-nuclear family. I mean, it is just dirty, rotten, disgusting propaganda is what it is. And we have to understand this rise of anti-Semitism is biblical. God told us about it. And yet here you are being a blessing to the Jewish people and creating this documentary. So you're not going to want to miss that, September 13th, all 4 services. So if you don't normally come to church here and you'd like to join us, definitely come to first or fourth service. There's no room in second or third. So first, 7.
Oh, I thought he was meaning like the first and fourth are really good.
First and fourth, they're all going to be really good. We're going to have Katie Hopkins out. But no, the thing is, it really is second and third is just packed. So come first or fourth. We'd love to have you. But tell us just a little bit about the documentary and then leave us with a bit of encouragement.
Okay.
If you would.
I will.
All right.
So the documentary Homelands is my journey with Jewish communities from France, where Jewish families are being forced out of Paris, to communities in the UK where they're also being forced out and making aliyah or returning to Israel to start again, to build a new life. And just talking about the honest reality of those French families in particular who are being forced out, because it's something that nobody else will talk about, because obviously it's a problem that can't be happening because we're not allowed to know it is. And then on a positive front, 2 things. So one is, if you look around this room, you know, this is one of the lovely things always, is who are the people, when you have to pick a side, whose side do you want to be on? You know, around these good people who will love you, who will care for you when you're maybe sad, or give you a hand up or a boost if you're a bit lonely or fed up, or will stand by you, or will come driving in their car if you got stuck somewhere? Or do you want to be with a bunch of people who are just, the bravest thing they've ever done is hold a placard? I mean, picking a side is easy because our side is the best side. Also, I like to add at this point, because we're always, you know, fighting uphill, we have the best buttocks also. High and tight, darlings, high and tight. I'm glad we're all seated. And the second thing, more significantly than off the buttocks subject, sorry, Pastor Tim. I was thinking Sister Nuala, but my
Be nice.
Sister Nuala would not have approved, or Sister Philomena for that matter, she was quite mean, is that, you know, back at Sandhurst with the officer training, we were taught under the motto, serve to lead. And the idea was that you serve your troop of 30 men, and by serving them best, you earn the right and the respect to be able to lead them. And that was our motto. But the Israelis, of course, do it rather better. And the Israeli SAS, who I stalk and try and hang around with on the pretense that I'm telling a story. I'm not. I just want to hang around with the Israeli SAS, if we're honest. But their motto is follow me. And I think actually that is the motto for our times. And what I think is so beautiful about this church here is that all of you light the way for your neighbors and your friends, and you say, follow me. Pastor Tim, brilliantly, by standing up in the face of personal risk and just overflowing with joy and passion in all that he does. I've just watched people in the street greeting him because they know his name. He says, follow me. And I think for all of us right now, if we're ever in times of darkness or we're wondering what to do, we can look back at this and know that wherever I am, I will always be saying politely in my very best British accent that you can follow me too. So God bless all of you, and God bless the United States of America.
Amen.
Yeah. Oh, no. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Please tell everyone to sit down.
We love you, Katie. We're so thankful that you came out, and we look forward to having you out again
you.
next time you're out. And if you make your way back to California,
Right.
we got to have you out. You all going to get a chance to meet her. She's going to be right out here to say hello, and you can take pictures. They can take pictures with you.
Can do whatever
All right.
they like.
All right, all right. But don't forget next. Not whatever you like.
He's such a fun spoiler.
I'm a fun sucker. Here's the deal. So don't forget, next Wednesday night, Senator Brian Jones will be here. Many of you may have heard about him because he got sick with COVID and shut down the Republican Senate for I don't know if you guys heard about that, but then the Democrats came in and they're trying to rush some votes real fast because the senators from the Republican side had to go and get tested and quarantined and all this stuff. So this is it's nonsense, but you're going to love hearing from Senator Brian Jones. He's actually formerly a pastor. So incredible man of God, loves the Lord, and doing great things in the Senate. So that's next Wednesday. And then, of course, Sunday the 13th, Katie Hopkins. So
yes.
Thank you, everybody, for being here tonight. Want to say thank you to everybody that tuned in online. Glad you were with us, and we will see you all next week.